Most people over 50 are not broke because of money problems. They're broke because they stopped trusting themselves. And no one ever talks about that. Because at this stage in life, self-doubt doesn't sound like fear anymore. It sounds like being responsible. If you're new here, my name is Celine. I work with people over 50 who are smart, capable, and responsible, and yet quietly worried about what their financial future is actually going to look like. Not because they haven't worked hard, not because they've made terrible choices, but because life happened and time suddenly feels louder. And if that's you, this conversation matters because today isn't about motivation. It's not about hustle. It's definitely not about just believing in yourself. It's about something more subtle and far more common. Self-doubt, not the loud kind, the quiet kind, the kind that sounds like logic, the kind that sounds like responsibility, the kind that slowly keeps people stuck while they're trying to be careful. And by the end of this video, I want you to understand how self-doubt actually shows up later in life, why it quietly affects money more than anything else, and what finally changes things when confidence isn't there yet. Stay with me because one small shift is how you see this can change how you move forward. Self-doubt looks very different at 25 than it does at 55. When you're younger, doubt sounds dramatic. What if I fail? What if this doesn't work? What if I look stupid? But later in life, self-doubt evolves. It sounds like, I don't have time to mess this up. I can't afford to make the wrong decision. I should already have this figured out. I just need to be careful. And that's the problem. Because that version of doubt feels reasonable. It feels adult, it feels responsible, and it feels smart, which is why so many capable people never realize that self-doubt is actually running the show. And if you've ever felt frozen around money decisions, stay with me because this next part explains why. The quiet cost of self-doubt. Self-doubt rarely costs you one big opportunity. It costs you dozens of small ones. It shows up as watching instead of starting, researching instead of learning, waiting instead of building, thinking instead of testing. And here's the hard truth. Most people who stay financially stuck aren't reckless. They're actually very careful. They don't jump into things blindly. They don't want hype and they don't want risk. But waiting without a plan doesn't protect you. It slowly narrows your options. And this is where self-doubt gets clever. It doesn't say don't do anything. It says just wait a little longer. And in a moment, I'll explain why waiting actually makes the fear worse, not better. Self-doubt feels logical because it often comes from experience. Many people watching this tried things before that didn't work, bought into promises that fell flat, put time or money into something that disappointed them. So now you're careful. That's not weakness, that's wisdom. But here's the distinction most people never make. There's a difference between being careful and being stalled. Careful has a plan, stalled waits for certainty. Careful moves with structure, stalled waits for confidence. And here's the part no one ever tells you. Confidence almost never comes first. Later in this video, I'll show you what actually quiets self-doubt, and it's nothing to do with believing harder. My story, where self-doubt showed up for me. Let me share this personal story. Back in September of 2024, I wasn't reckless. I wasn't chasing new shiny objects, and I wasn't trying to get rich. I was short on retirement. And when you realize that later in life, it hits differently. I wasn't afraid to work. I worked hard my entire life. What scared me was the idea of working forever and still not feeling secure. And I don't want to work until I'm 80. Self-doubt didn't sound dramatic for me. It sounded like, you need to be smart. You can't afford to get this wrong. What if this doesn't work either? And here's the important part. What changed things wasn't confidence. It was structure. And in a moment, I'll explain why structure works when motivation fails. The real shift from confidence to structure. Here's the insight that changed everything for me. You do not overcome self-doubt by believing harder. You overcome it by reducing uncertainty. Confidence is a result, not a requirement. What quiets self-doubt is clear steps, predictable systems, skills that compound, support, moves isolation. Structure answers the question self-doubt keeps asking. And if you've been waiting to feel ready, this next part matters because waiting actually raises the bar, not lowers it. So why money amplifies self-doubt? Money decisions feel permanent. So people freeze. They tell themselves, I'll deal with this later. I'll wait until I'm more sure. I'll figure it out when I have more time. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Time doesn't remove uncertainty. It increases it. Because the longer you wait, the more pressure you feel to get it right. And that's how capable people end up stuck, not because they can't learn, but because self-doubt keeps moving the goalpost. The better question to ask, instead of asking, am I confident enough? Ask, what's the smallest structured step forward? Not the biggest leap and not the perfect plan, the smallest step with direction. Momentum creates clarity, not the other way around. So what I want you to hear, if this video feels personal, it's because it is. You're not broken, you're not incapable, and you're not too late. You're cautious because you care. You're thoughtful because you've lived. But self-doubt isn't protecting you. It's quietly closing doors while you're trying to be careful. If you're over 50 and you've been telling yourself you're just being careful, I want you to reflect on this. Careful without a plan still costs you. If you want to see the structure that helped me move forward, no hype, no pressure, you'll find that link below in the description, the Freedom Formula Blueprint. And if this conversation helped you see yourself more clearly, let me know in the comments. Remember, you're not behind, you're not broken, you're just ready for something that finally makes sense.